Welcome everybody to our afternoon of fun and adventure with Carolyn Rodmanovich's new novel. And we have so much to show you and say about it. And you'll see that Carolyn's Gypsy Caravan is awaiting you. It is empty right now because she is busy cleaning it, but she'll be out in just a moment. In the meantime, I would like to show you what we have in terms of the Gypsy's Warning, which is the new novel by our very own Carolyn Rodmanovich. So we are beginning. I'm Jenny Grossenbacher from Elk Grove Writers and Artists, and it is my pleasure to present Carolyn Rodmanovich today in her book talk about The Gypsy's Warning, which is her brand new novel, and it is amazingly exciting. And here's a copy of the cover, and look at how tense and exciting it all looks. Somebody is receiving a warning, and it looks like the gypsy is in the back. So this is book 2 of Carolyn's Shapeshifter Wife series. Let us tell you a little bit about the author before we meet her. Fascinated by the Wild West, author Carolyn Rodmanovich earned a history degree from San Jose State University after a near-drowning incident on the Russian River. She was compelled to write her first novel, The Shapeshifter's Wife, about an anthropologist named Angelica who time travels to the California gold rush of 1848 and meets a very handsome Frenchman. This book won the 2018 Independent Book Awards for visionary fiction. More about Carolyn. Carolyn's short stories, Texas Dream and Frenchie, a love story, were included in the NCPA anthologies Birds of a Feather and More Birds of a Feather. The California Writers Club selected her short story, Prod, for second place in the 2019 memoir contest. Carolyn lives in Lincoln, California, with her husband and cat, Tex. Check her website, www.carolynrodmanovich.com. And what have we here? An appearance by Carolyn Rodmanovich herself. Let us put our hands up in applause. Yay! Welcome, Carolyn. So good to see you.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. This is my time travel romance series, and I wanted to say it's really wonderful to be able to share my excitement for the series. And I wanted to bring to your attention the previous slide. Didn't you enjoy the picture of my famous cat, Tex? He was the inspiration for writing Texas Dream, the short story in the NCPA anthology. Back to my book. The series fits many genres. Time travel romance is a best fit. Then there's early California history. Having been raised in California, I've always been very fascinated with the early gold rush era. I'm an Indie award-winning author and won the President's Choice for Visionary Fiction for the 2018 Independent Book Awards. In this book, The Gypsy's Warning, the story focuses on Heather, who time travels to find Angelica. For the characters, I see myself more as Angelica, whereas Heather's personality reflects her sisters more. I'm more mellow and academic, whereas she's more outgoing, was a nurse, and is a great piano player. Now, I've got my crystal ball here. It's lit up, and I think it has something it wants to tell me. Yes, it's getting brighter. Ah, I see that two of you will win a signed paperback. Oh no, no, the image is fading, but it did say the winners will be given at the end of my presentation.
Yay!
So I'm going to give you two readings. The first one will be about Heather and David at the beach. The woman in the picture represents Heather, and the man David, or Dr. Robertson. This relationship is starting to bloom as they take a stroll along a deserted beach in early San Francisco days. Reading number 1. As we near the ocean.
What about imagining the courage? I think you wanted to talk about that too from this slide, right?
The courage about what?
Imagine the courage it would take to voluntarily time travel.
Oh, did I mess up? Okay, I'm sorry.
You didn't mess up.
I have that in mind. Okay. So we can cut this? Okay, imagine the courage it would take to voluntarily time travel to find your sister, only to find her house had been burned and she had fled the arsonist. Heather, with her strong will, takes on the challenge, and in the process of searching for her sister, she ends up in 1849, rowdy San Francisco. In the picture, you'll see an old computer from the 90s. Remember when it was like the most modern thing you could find? Now it looks archaic. In the fall of 1995, Heather learns through a mysterious letter that she was typed into the computer that Angelica time traveled to 1849. With nothing holding her back, Heather sets out in search of Angelica. When Heather reaches her sister's California rancho, she finds Angelica has fled to Monterey to escape the men who burned her house. On her continued search, Heather rides to San Francisco and obtains a job playing piano in a saloon where she befriends the dance hall girls. Disgusted with the conditions under which the girls must work, Heather searches for a way to extract them from their demeaning jobs, which infuriates the saloon owner. A gypsy palm reader warns Heather about an unexpected journey and impending danger for her and her new sweetheart. In her effort to help the dance hall girls, where she plays piano, she makes an enemy of the saloon owner. The friends she makes and the romance that blossoms are her saving grace. Will Heather listen to the gypsy's warning, or put herself and David in danger by ignoring it? So I'm going to do a reading about Heather and David at the beach. The woman represents Heather, and the man in the picture represents David, and their relationship is just starting to bloom as they take a stroll along a deserted beach in early California. As we neared the ocean, a panorama of driftwood and seaweed piled about in clumps on the beach. Someone had made sculptures out of the driftwood. The high tide revealed a tumbled rubble of driftwood from gigantic trunks to small branches. Seagulls screamed in laughter as they flew overhead. I smelled the salty air and smoke from a dying fire. I became filled with joy from an ocean's awesome presence. The wind whipped the hair into my eyes. I removed a handkerchief from my pocket and tied my hair into a ponytail. With my hair under control, I said to Dr. Robertson. The ocean inspires me. I've noticed when I'm quiet, I have thoughts that seem like God is guiding me. What do you mean? He asked. As I look out at the driftwood, littered throughout the beach by numerous storms, I realize that driftwood could represent people's lives, tossed and scattered here and there with no purpose. If we could rise above the storms of life to glance at the vast horizon and choose our goals and dreams, we could create a life of great achievement. A very fine sentiment, but difficult to put into practice. But I do agree. We are born but a seed of great potential. It's up to us to bloom. Dr. Robertson sat down and crossed his legs. He put his hands behind his head and took in our surroundings. What I see when I look at the beach is a vast wasteland of drying bones of once proud trees that now litter the beach, or perhaps a place out of Africa where elephants go to die, unseen by civilized eyes, save for the sharp gaze of vultures as they soar. We sat down next to each other and gazed out at the ocean. I put my hand on his shoulder. Yes, he said, and I could see the majestic power and force of an accumulation of 1,000,000 water droplets, forming waves that break and crash on sandy shores. Dr. Robertson looked so tranquil and content sitting there. On impulse, I gave him a tight hug. He appeared a little stunned. When have I felt such tranquility fill my soul? Wonderful to just sit in silence next to this gentle man. I removed my boots, tied the laces together, and placed them around my neck. Next I stood and tied the ends of my skirt together. In imitation, he removed his boots, rolled up his pants, and strolled along the shoreline beside me. I walked toward the moving water. When the waves crashed close to shore, I ran the opposite way to avoid getting my skirt wet. A sand dollar peeked through the sand, and I picked it up. My first shell. I wonder what else I'll find. Dr. Robertson scooped up a large pink shell. Ah, we'll add this to our dinner tonight. This is an abalone. The meat's tough, but if you pound it, it becomes quite edible. I enjoy the flavor. Abalone? You're kidding. Right here on the beach? Yes, they're quite common around here. Fantastic. We'll eat like royalty tonight. I leaned down and picked up large, empty clam shells and put them into my cloth bag. I'll have a wonderful collection to take back to camp. Dr. Robertson ambled toward a driftwood structure that looked like a large hobbit house with branches and tree trunks stacked and leaned to create walls, with openings for windows and a door. He walked into the interior and then turned toward me, imitating the motion of opening a door. Won't you come in, my beauty, and visit for a while? Certainly, kind sir. It would be my pleasure. I stepped inside. We sat on logs behind which someone had stuck sturdy sticks into the sand that helped support our backs. He looked at me fondly. Would you like a cup of English tea, Miss Heather? Yes, and may I have some cream and 2 teaspoons of sugar, Dr. Robertson? Oh, my stars, you're too formal. Please call me David. He put his hand on my thigh and then removed it right away, as if forgetting himself. He got busy pantomiming the making of pretend tea and handed me the imaginary cup. His fingers touched mine as I took the tea. A pleasant jolt traveled up my arm. We both leaned toward each other, a magnetic force pulling us. I was ready for our first kiss when, over the roar of the ocean and the wind, I heard a voice yelling over and over, "Doc, Doc."
Excellent reading. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, many people have asked me what inspired me to write more than one book. I hadn't intended to write a series, but when I finished the first book, the characters called to me saying they weren't complete. There was more story. After the first book, I decided to write about Heather, the sister who traveled Angelica. In the Gypsy's Warning, Heather time travels to the gold rush of 1849 to early California. I am presently working on book number 3. Many of the scenes I wrote came from dreams or quiet meditations and long walks. I receive my best inspiration from quieting my mind and going within. And then there's a factual part at the beginning of my first book, which got the whole story started. Over 20 years ago, I had a close call with drowning on the Russian River. My husband and I canoed during late spring, and the river was rushing. We came to a spot where a dead tree was crated, and there was a strong current. We bumped into it, and our boat overturned. The canoe became jammed under a dead tree, and I was stuck under the canoe. My husband was trying to figure out where I had disappeared. He looked downstream and didn't see me. Since one end of the canoe was poking up, he decided he would try to dislodge it, but it barely budged. He took a deep breath, and his adrenaline kicked in, and he yanked and yanked until it came up. In the meantime, I tried escaping and pushed on the canoe, but it wouldn't move. I realized I was going to die, so I thanked God for my good but short life. At that point, despite feeling afraid, I was surprised and also felt excited and even happy about the upcoming adventure of death. I was sure it would be beautiful, and I would go into the cosmos and be with God. At that point, my lungs burned and I was forced to take a breath. That's when I blacked out. When the canoe became dislodged, I floated away. I was jerked awake, for my feet were being drug over the gravel on the bottom of the river. I stood up and my throat was closed. My husband saw me and yelled, "Breathe!" I made an attempt, but my throat was sealed in a spasm. After several tries, I finally took in air, and I yelled, "I'm alive!" For an entire year, I was ecstatic. Even mundane things were wonderful. Going to work, cleaning the toilet, raking leaves, everything was magic. For a couple months after the incident, I kept having a series of dreams. These revolved around a house I saw on the hillside just before I almost drowned. We had stopped at a sandbar to have lunch when we saw this dark, mysterious house with turrets on it and a wraparound porch. I wanted to hike to it, but there were too many thick bushes. Because of these ongoing dreams about the house, I decided to drive back to the Russian River and find the place. My husband and I had a 3-day weekend, so we drove the 3 hours to Hillsburg and found a motel. Despite driving up and down the river, we didn't find it. The next day, we went to the firehouse. After giving the firewoman a description of the house, she wrote down the owner's phone number. I called the owner on a gas station payphone. Those were the days when we didn't have cell phones. The owner made me repeat the story. When she decided it wasn't totally crazy, she gave me directions. She waited for us at the house and drove us in her pickup to the bottom of the hill, where she believed I had viewed the house from the gravel bar. She said to take our time and take pictures, but knock when we left. We took in the river view, then walked up the hill filled with wine grape vines, and arrived at the house. My husband reminded me that I told them there was a black pool behind the house in my dreams, and he urged me to take a look. I walked behind the house, and I saw a large black pool, and I became very excited. I went to the house and told the owner about my dreams and the pool. I told her I was thinking of writing a book based on my near drowning experience. She asked me to send her a copy of the book when it was done. About 20 years later, I mailed her a copy of the book, then contacted her and invited her to dinner. She insisted I do a tour of the mysterious house that had haunted me enough to force me to write about it. It was everything I imagined, with a tall rock fireplace and a large kitchen. The spooky house is featured in the beginning of the Gypsy's warning, and you can learn about which misfortune Heather undergoes when she arrives there. Check out my YouTube channel under my name, Carolyn Radmanovich, and check out the video, How I Met the Tree of Death, where I describe the near drowning incident in more detail. Now we're going to go on to the second reading, and you'll notice the gypsy in the picture, and then the woman sitting next to her doesn't really have clothes from the 1800s, but it was the best picture I could find that showed the flavor of a gypsy giving a warning. I actually did go to a palm reader so I could experience having my palm read. He used a roller to ink my hands, and he had me place my hand on paper to get a good imprint. Thank goodness he didn't tell me anything earth-shattering. So for reading number 2, the second reading starts where Angelica is in a cafe and a gypsy approaches her. When I finished eating, the gypsy approached me. "Señorita, may I read your palm?" "My name's Señora Estela. My price is reasonable. By your look, you have interesting future as well as past." Despite her thick Chilean accent, she spoke English decently, so I said, "Before you start, I have a question." "Certainly." "Where did you learn your skill?" She adjusted her scarf and said, "Mi madre taught me fortune-telling, and she learned it from my abuela. Each woman passed wisdom down to children. I have strong intuition in my blood." Intrigued, I said, "Yes, please give me a reading," and motioned for her to pull up a seat. She sat across from me. "I charge only 50 cents, since you are a beautiful, gracious woman." I gave her my right hand, which she held with both of hers. She grew quiet and studied my palm. Your heart line, the top line, is deep. It shows you are a friendly person. I can tell from elevated Mount of Venus under the thumb that your heart and emotions most important. You are a caring and generous lady." Senora Estela smiled at me and then proceeded, "You sensitive to those around and hate when people suffer. Your medical stigmata lines show best career is you help people. You dislike argument and push people to work together." "Yes," I nodded. "I've always worked as a nurse most of my life and find I'm drawn to that career here in San Francisco." She pointed to a spot on my hand. "See disconnected part of the headline below heartline? It indicates you crave freedom and independence and don't like being controlled." "That's true." "You need adventure and excitement through work, plus like to travel and explore. Wide fingertips show you risk taker, which can bring dangers." "What kind of dangers?" "Personality and how you lead life reflects on your future." She rubbed her index finger over my lifeline. "Since you're adventurous, you may encounter many dangers, but I look at lifeline to confirm." Before she could give me the answer I was looking for, David returned. He was beaming and carrying a package. "Oh, David, you're back." He sat down between me and the palm reader. "Heather, who is this?" The gypsy woman spoke up before I could answer. "Senor, I am Senora Estela, and I give your charming woman a palm reading. I give you one too for same price." Excuse me for a moment. She leaned down and began going through her cloth bag, which sat on the floor. While Senora Estella was distracted, David whispered in my ear, Heather, you don't want to be taken in by these gypsies. They aren't trustworthy. Don't let her try to sell you a good luck charm. It's just a ploy to make more money. She was just completing the reading when you came. Let her finish. Senora Stella removed something from the cloth bag and put it in her pocket. When she leaned back in her chair, I said, Please proceed. Senora Stella took my hand in hers and stared. Her forehead wrinkled. Pausing, she pursed her lips. What's the problem? I asked. Oh, senorita, I must warn you of great peril ahead. See lifeline here? She pointed to the curved line that started between my index finger and thumb and continued downward toward my wrist. David leaned over and stared at my palm. Please go on, I said. There is break in lifeline, she said, her dark eyes clouding over. This can indicate struggle, loss, unexpected change. She gave me a weak smile. Break short, so time passes quickly. I could feel my heart rate increase. Is there anything else? Yes. See line forks to Mount of Neptune? This means travel to far-off places. Well, I was planning on sailing to Monterey as soon as I can get passage. Perhaps that's the trip you saw. Senora Estella paused for a moment, putting her hand on her forehead as she closed her eyes. When she opened them, she said, No, this trip much farther and unexpected. I advise be on guard. Danger lurks. Putting my hand down, Senora Estella grabbed David's without asking him and looked at his open palm. She said, Just as I thought. Your fates combined. You need to watch for danger and protect Senorita. I crossed myself at this frightening news. God protect us. My heart rate increased and palpitated extra beats. I looked at David, whose eyes had grown large. One last warning, Senora Estella added, still holding David's hand. Her eyes held a faraway look. You have added curse because of something you did recently. Only powerful medicine remove it. But with hard work, you may succeed. Sweat broke out on David's forehead, and he removed his hand from Senora Estella and put it in his pocket to fish for a handkerchief. He looked grim as he wiped his damp brow. I not charge for the senor. I know you not ask for reading, she said. You are a non-believer, but I can tell you good man, and I warn you anyway. I know you care very much for Senorita. You two good match. Guard her from evil. With this pronouncement, she crossed herself and said, That'll be 50 cents, a bargain for such a strong warning. When the waiter dropped the bill on the table, David excused himself and took the bill to the cashier in front of the restaurant. I pulled my purse and put it on my lap and opened it and pulled out 50 cents in coins and handed them to her. She stood, removed something from her skirt pocket, and then pressed an amulet necklace into my hand. I handed her another 50 cents without her asking. Winking, she put her index finger to her lips. She whispered, Use amulet in times of danger. It repels evil. She stood up to leave. I opened my hand to see what she had given me. I shuddered as I looked at the silver chain with an amulet of an inch-long hand. The palm held a blue stone shaped like an eye. I put the necklace around my neck. Somehow, I felt safer. If you have any questions, You can always email me, or if you have any comments, you can go to my website. And oh, wait, the crystal ball is lighting up again. I think it's going to predict the two winners. It's getting clearer. Yes, I see the winner, the first winner. It's Bethany. Wow, congratulations. Oh no, it's starting to fade.
Hey,
Kind of get the other winner. Let's put some energy into it working. Oh, it's getting lighter. Yes, yes. I can see the second winner. Okay, it's Diane. I hope you guys enjoy the book. All right, congratulations. I wish to thank everyone for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend the book launch for the second book in my series. I love sharing my enthusiasm for the Gypsy's Warning. I hope you all enjoy it. Remember, you can buy my book on Amazon.com, and please check out my website where you can reach me with your comments at www.carolynradmanovich.com. And don't hesitate to put a review on Amazon or Goodreads. This helps spread the word about my book. I really appreciate any efforts you make to boost my book. And you can visit my YouTube site at Carolyn Radmanovich to learn more about my Almost Drowning and more about inspirations for writing. Thank you for attending.
I would like to say thank you, Carolyn, for your wonderful appearance here with our Elk Grove Writers and Artists group. We have so enjoyed having you come and share so much of your creative work with us. We also enjoy having you as a part of our classes every week. It's just, you're truly a treasure. And this has been a wonderful experience for us. And we look forward to many more books from Carolyn Radmanovich. Let's put it up. Yay! So thank you so much, Carolyn.
You're very welcome.
Okay, we will stop sharing now.